shot. Redirected. Score! Game 7! Montana St. Louis! We are going back to Tampa Bay! The Cavalier spinning. The Cavalier looking. Trying to drop it off. Brings it in himself. Left it in the middle. Shot.
Welcome back to a new episode of Thunderstruck. My name is Jake Ricker. I'm here with my good friend, as always, Michael. Michael, how you doing today?
Always good, and especially good now that we have a special guest with us.
Yes, Zac Blobner is with us today. Zac, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. Playoff hockey. I thought we would never get to this point, but we've made it, and now we're actually getting to watch the guys play and all these different games go down. And so far, so good. They're safe and healthy in the bubble, and no reason not to be happy as long as they're playing.
Yep, and the Lightning are doing good as well, so even more reason to be happy. So we got another game coming up tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So we'll get to that series in a little bit. We got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. I want to start off with a couple of the series, talking about the Flyers-Canadiens. Flyers-Canadiens are playing today as of this recording in game 4, sorry. Philly leads 2-1 in this series. Montreal has played pretty well considering they're playing one of the top seeds in Philly. They had a great game after they had interim head coach after after their coach went down to the hospital, but they played really well, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty good series.
Yeah, so far so good for Philly. I mean, I thought they were the most impressive team in the round robin, which is why they ended up with that top seed. Obviously, playing the Lightning, we got to see him up close and personal for a little bit there. Hell of a goalie, the young kid in net there. I think we saw him in his debut, or at least his debut week, play the Lightning last season. And I know he had high expectations then heading into, his first real NHL game. And so far, it seems like everything's stayed on track for the Flyers and for him. Montreal, kind of impressive too, finding their way from the outside in, beating, I believe, the Penguins to jump a better team in Pittsburgh and get into the playoff bubble and continue to play. So I think if you're Montreal, you're playing with house money. You're playing loose. Familiar name there for Bolts fans and Jonathan Drouin. And I believe Carey Price playing fantastic, or at least heading into that matchup with the Flyers, he was. So it's been fun, 2-1. So it's not a complete stomping, but you still got to think Philly not only has the edge, but, just like the Lightning, should be able to win this in less than 7.
Yeah, hopefully they do, because, with the way that the Canadiens have been playing against teams from Pennsylvania, they have dominated the Penguins, and I wouldn't say they've dominated the Flyers, but game 2 they definitely dominated the Flyers. I think that had to do with Claude Julien not being out, and they are having to sort of readjust. But I look at a player like Shea Weber, who's currently leading their team in goals and points in these playoffs, and he's playing over 24, 25 minutes a night. He is a horse on their back end, and I think it's officially time to say that from that trade in 2017, the Canadiens won the Subban Weber trade, which is really weird to say all these years later. Overall, I think Philly has dominated the majority of the series, but if the Canadiens can do it in Game 4, what they did in Game 2, and continue that for the rest of the series, Canadiens might shock the world.
Yeah, very true. And this series has a lot of implications for the Lightning as well, because if the Canadiens are able to pull off the upset here and win this, the Lightning would become the 1 seed as we reseed every round, which ends up affecting who we play in the second round. Because if Philly ends up winning, we will play the winner of, I believe, Boston, Carolina, versus if Montreal wins, and assuming we win our series as well, obviously no lead is safe. Don't want to jinx anything, but we would end up playing Montreal if we were to advance and Montreal is the winner. So do you guys have a preference here, or do you think it matters at all on who we end up playing?
As opposed to the winner of each series? Or because if it's the Flyers, I'd rather not see the Flyers. They played the Lightning well. I have no issue going up against a Montreal team if that was somehow how it shook up. I have no problem with seeing the Bruins. I mean, obviously with Rask being out, even though they've been able to win without him, I think that ends up ultimately hurting their chances as they move forward. So for me, the only team I really don't want to see out of the four mentioned, and that includes the Hurricanes. Although I think that'd be a fun matchup because of a lot of speed on both sides of the ice if they were to play the Lightning. The only team I really don't want to see is Philly, and again, just based on their last matchup, and they do play tough. They are healthy outside of the coach, and again, that goalie is the young kid. He scares me.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Zach. The only team I really just don't want to see in the that would be the third round would be the Flyers. And you're completely right. Like, I was talking about this with Jake before the show started. I would love a matchup against the Hurricanes. I think that would be a ton of fun, even if Svechnikov's not willing to play or not able to play because of that injury he sustained from Chara. I think that would be an awesome series. Aho versus Braden Point as the battle of the number one centers. You've got some fantastic defensive depth. James Reimer has been an awesome goalie for Carolina. So if I had to choose a team that I wanted to play in the second round, it would probably be Montreal just because they are such easy pickings. But if there's a team that I wanted to see the Lightning face in a series, just as a hockey fan, it would be the Hurricanes.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how this ends up playing out and who we end up playing. I know for a lot of Lightning fans, they're thinking, "Hey, it doesn't matter who we play. I just want to win." As we move on, let's talk about the Lightning though, and their series currently up 3-1 against Columbus. And as I mentioned before, they are playing tomorrow at 12 o'clock. The Lightning have played really well, I thought. You're looking at obviously comparing it to last year, which is the big storyline from this time. They've done well, despite a couple of issues in Game 2, and then the struggle in the first period from the last game. The Lightning have done very well, and I'm very happy to see that it seems like they've learned their lesson so far.
Yeah, I hope so. I was pretty critical of Coach Cooper after last year's debacle. I think a lot of people were. He'd already signed the extension. I thought that was kind of a jumping of the gun on management's part and Julien Brisebois. But with that being said, they come out. They have a strong round robin showing after the exhibition game where they smashed the Panthers. And then they win the first game, and you're feeling good about the Bolts and what they can do. A 5 overtime game, exciting. But they head into the second game in the way that they lose that, not seeing any adjustments really from Coach Cooper and knowing what happened last season. I was very critical of him again, but he made adjustments. He swapped out, Verhaeghe and Stevens. That paid off in game 3. You saw him in the last game moving Cooch around, working with the power play and the penalty kill, leaning on that Gord line a little bit more, letting Tyler Johnson and some of his guys, his line mates, get into the mix on the power play. He was able to be flexible. He was able to be creative. And that's one of the things that's bugged me about Coach Cooper from a on the ice standpoint over the last few seasons. But to see that, it gives me hope not only for this series, but as inevitably they run into walls in other series moving forward. Hopefully they get through this one up 3-1, that they'll be able to adjust as needed. And that's got to be encouraging for Lightning fans. And again, I feel really good about it. The Gord line has just been phenomenal. And it's easy to say that after the last game, but I think Yanni was one of those guys that got, re-upped on his contract, and we were all kind of like, hey, you want to kick money there? You only have so much to work with, right? Like, it's a salary cap. That Point's on a bridge deal now, but he's got to get paid again at some point. Cooch signed a big deal. Vassie's got a big deal. Stammer has a big deal. There's only so much money to go around. So when we saw them kick some of it to Yanni, I think some of us were not confused, but just kind of like, okay, there's a lot of mouths to feed. Are you sure that that's the route you want to go? And we're seeing in this playoffs why that they, were able to kind of dish some of that dough to him and secure his slot on the ice with the Bolts.
Yeah, and you look at Yanni and Barkley and Blake, and they have been probably the Lightning's best line. I know the first line started off really, really hot. They have cooled down a little bit, but nothing beats hard work in the playoffs. And that line is working the hardest out of any of their lines. So, I would say Braden Point is probably the hardest worker right now on the Lightning. But, Kucherov has been a little bit shaky. Palat has been good, but not, spectacular. So as a line, I think the third line has definitely been the best line. And
I don't know if I'd say shaky. I mean, as you guys know, I'm a big Kucherov stan. So I don't know if I'd say he's been shaky. I mean, he's been around a lot of those goals. Look, and Gord's line has been the most productive for sure. They've definitely worked the hardest collectively. Like, I'm not going to take that away from you, but you give me that Point and Kucherov line with Palat in there. I mean, that's the most talented line the Lightning have right now with Stamkos being banged up. And I think that line, you put them on the ice, it's hard for teams to stop them, even with their best pairing. I don't know if I'd go and say he was shaky.
I did, as a player so far, like especially in the first round of series, he's made a couple of questionable passes. That's what I mean by shaky. A lot of turnovers in the. He just looks a little bit off. I mean, when you're a top 5 player in the world and you're not playing like a top 5 player in the world, people are going to notice. So,
I think it's important to mention too as well. Kucherov is going to be the top guy teams are looking at too. With Stamkos out, he's getting all the attention. So he's definitely going to have a tougher time than he normally would when Stamkos is there to take some of the pressure off. I do think Kucherov has been pretty good overall. Sure, he's not making any groundbreaking playoff career numbers or anything like that, but for the most part, I think Kucherov has played pretty well.
Yeah, but that's the thing too, though, is like so. And again, I go to battle for Cooch a lot, and if you hold him to the standard of he's not playing like a top 5 player in the world, that's fair, Michael. I hear you, and trust me, I get that. That's everybody's gripe. He's making a lot of money. He is a top 5 player talent wise, and he doesn't really reach that bar often. But look, those questionable passes are something that have plagued him throughout his career, and I think we put a spotlight on him. But we don't talk about the fact that look, he does have a lot of points in his postseason career in general. I know that he disappeared last season, but all the team did, in my opinion. He has a goal this year. He's put pucks on the net. It's not like he's not shooting and he's not skating. I mean, the 2 goals that Braden Point scored in game 1 in that 5 overtime thriller, the first one was a deflection from a gorgeous Kucherov shot. And then the winner was after 2 rockets from Kucherov on net. And he is pulling guys in. They are double teaming and keeping an eye on him. And they're especially doing that during the power play. And I think that's why it opens up lanes for guys like Tyler Johnson and others to have some room, including Braden Point. And I know there's a big argument there because Braden Point certainly the better 2-way player. I won't argue Kucherov's defense isn't what makes us like him. But I think if you look at what he did last season and how he got frustrated and where he was misstepping or misskating, I think he's been much more attentive this year. Now, would we still like him to be more attentive and turn the puck over less? 100%, guys. I'll give you that. But if you compare his playoffs right now to what he was doing last season against Columbus, I don't know how you could argue he's not more attentive and more focused. He's not taking the dumb penalties, which he did last year too. And look, there's other guys on the team that are taking dumb penalties and are making bad passes. And I mean, I can go through every player on defense not named Hedman that let guys get behind him in this series. So again, I'm extra protective of Kucherov, but I get it from the standpoint of the bar is a top 5 player in the world. He's not in the top 5 players in the world right now as far as production. That's a fair assessment, but I wouldn't call him shaky, but that's just me.
All right, maybe I used the wrong word.
Hey, like I said, I'm brutal when it comes to that, and it's not just you guys. I feel like I'm Jon Snow whipping out the sword in the Battle of the Bastards. Like everybody's always coming for Cooch. He's, again, and they lost game 2. Go figure. The game where he scores a goal, nobody gives a damn because they lost. So I get it. I do get it. There are fair criticisms, but I feel like we hold him to a ridiculous standard that he can't meet. Like, what does he have to do? Score 3 goals a game? Hatties every night? Like, and that's the one thing. Even if he doesn't turn the puck over, then people just don't notice him. We just don't pay enough attention to the things he does well, in my opinion.
Well, one of the things he does do well, sorry, Jake, but one of the things he does do well is his defense. He's been really good at, making sure that neutral zone is clogged up. He's been really good at stick checking. He has become a better defender in these playoffs from what he was last year. So I totally get that. His offense production isn't what it was last regular season or this regular season. But again, he's still got 6 points in 7 games. He's still one of the top 5 players in the world. His defense has been a lot better, but he hasn't had that groundbreaking, game where I'm like, there's the Kucherov lineup.
Fair. That's fair. And that'll give you like, we're waiting for that night where he does not a Hattie every night. We're waiting for one night for him to have 3 goals, right? And just be like, literally, they won this game in Tampa Bay because Kucherov put the team on his back and he was unstoppable. And I think we're waiting for that game specifically in the postseason. We've seen him do it in the regular season where he just takes over and he'll score 2 goals in 30 seconds. He'll put another one in towards the end. And you're just like, you can't stop the kid when he wants to skate. I hope we get that because I think that as a fan base, it's deserving to see Cooch play at that level. But I think Cooch deserves a night where we celebrate him too after a big win. And I don't think he's really had that. So I hope that happens for the fans and for Kucherov.
Hey, I love the banter. I love the back and forth. It's great. But I think you're right, Zach. I'm with you on that. Kucherov is one of my favorite players, and I know for a lot of fans. And I would love to know what our viewers have to say. What do you guys think on Kucherov? Is he the player you expect him to be? Do you expect him to do better because you hold him to a higher standard? All that good stuff. Let us know in the comments down below. I do want to move on and talk about the next series here in the East with the Washington Capitals taking on the New York Islanders. I'm a fan of this series because I am not a Washington Capitals fan. They are my public enemy number one, and they are down 3-0 to the Islanders. The Islanders have played really well, so credit where credit is due, them being the 6th seed. They've got a chance for the sweep, and I believe they play today. I can't remember off the top of my head what time they play, but this will be interesting to see if we finally have our first series done in round 1 of the 2020 playoffs.
Yeah, we talked about the Flyers a little bit ago, boys. And I mean, look, if we're talking about teams I don't want the Bolts to see, the Capitals are right there too.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think as in Lightning land here, we talk a lot about Brad Marchand and how much we hate him and how much of a menace he is for Boston and annoying. I mean, he licked one of the players' faces, Ryan Callahan. Like he just does stuff that we don't forget. But the thing I give him credit for is he embraces that villain rule. He knows how to play the heel like a good WWE wrestling superstar. And I give him credit for that. I don't give credit to a guy like Tom Wilson, who is just, in my opinion, one of the biggest dirtbags in the league, but he's effective at doing that, at getting under players' skin, and honestly at helping his team be productive and win. And that's one of the reasons I don't like the Capitals. But again, I respect their game and Ovechkin leading that charge. I don't want to see the Caps. The Islanders, I got no bones about seeing them at any point in the postseason. They're a good team. They're not a great team. They're not an elite team. And, if they can find a way past Washington, I think that's great news for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, 100%. I look at the fact that, Barry Trotz knows how to coach his former team. He knows exactly where Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Carlson are going to be at all times. So he knows exactly where to put those defenders. If the Lightning are going to face the Islanders at some point, let's say it's next round or, round 3, if they get there, I gotta say, like, the only player that scares me is Matthew Barzal and the goalie because their defensive system is just that good. So, Barzal's a talent. Varlamov has been good. If he needs to step away, Grice has also been very good under Trotz's system. So, those are the only 2/3 things that I'm really afraid of when it comes to the Islanders. And I think they've done a very good job against the Capitals of neutralizing a lot of their top talent. Part of that has to do with the fact that Nick Backstrom hasn't been playing great when he's been on the ice because he's also been hurt. So they just don't have what it takes.
Backstrom didn't play in that round robin game either, the one that the Lightning won that second game, right? Backstrom was watching from the stands. That's a great point. Yeah, if he's out or if he's not full ready to go, I mean, that team isn't quite as good. It's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, he is the Robin to Ovechkin's Batman. Like, he is that guy, even if they're not playing together because, Ovechkin's with Kuznetsov or something like that. But Backstrom is extremely integral to their success. He takes that pressure off of Kuznetsov when he's in the lineup because teams are so focused on him. And if he's not there, the Islanders, maybe they don't win this tonight. Maybe they have the Capitals get one and eke one out, but they're going to win this in 5 if that's the case.
Confidence, Michael. I like it.
Listen, I think Nick Backstrom has become so synonymous with the word underrated that he's sort of overrated a little bit at this point. But he is extremely important to the Capitals. And if he's not there, it's like Steven Stamkos. Well, that's not the best example. It's like Anthony Cirelli not being there. Now you have to bump everyone up in the lineup. And they're not – chemistry with each other isn't that good. So –
Hey, Michael, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, I do think it reminds me of, on the power play at least, Stamkos not being there. It puts a lot of pressure on guys like Kuch and Johnson. Johnson has to step up on that first power play line, and he's not the same guy. And it's the same kind of thing for the Capitals. So I think you're right in that sense, and it's a big deal for them. So we'll see how it plays out here. They obviously have a lot of work to do if the Capitals want to move on to the next round. But I, for one, am totally okay with the Islanders getting the sweep. They are playing today at 8, by the way, which is the time. So we'll see how it plays out. But now let's move on to the West here. A lot of interesting games out here. Let's start off with the Golden Knights versus the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are a team that nobody really expected to even get into the first round, beating the Islanders, or not the Islanders, excuse me, the Edmonton Oilers. So big win for them, and now they are down, though, 3-1. Corey Crawford stole the game last time out, avoiding the sweep. He played really well, and they're going to need it from him again tonight, I believe, at 10:30 to avoid the elimination.
They're done, dude. We don't even have to it's like, look, that's not, look, that's not being rude. Like, Chicago shouldn't even be in this bubble. Like, they were lucky to even get the plane ride to the city. They were lucky to get past their first round to get in, past Edmonton and Connor McDavid. Listen, it's cool. I'm glad they won a game. I'm sure Blackhawks fans are thrilled. This series is nothing. There's no way in hell that the Knights don't win this.
You know what? You're probably right, but who knows? It's 2022, so anything can happen. I'm ready for it, but you're right though. This is definitely Vegas' series to lose, and I would not be surprised to see them move on.
No, man, if Leonard struggles in Game 5, they have Marc-Andre Fleury, noted playoff performer, in their back pocket. This series, like Zach said, is over. Like,
it's over.
If Chicago might win Game 5, they might. Vegas is going into Game 6. Like,
yeah,
it's not anything against the Blackhawks. They've done a lot of good things, but you look at the way that Vegas has just destroyed their defense and gotten notable contributions from players that you might have not heard of, like Alex Tuck and Nick Waugh. If you're the casual hockey fan, who are those guys? Like, Vegas is such a deep team. They're definitely the best team in the West. I like Colorado a lot, but there's a reason the Knights got that number 1 seed. Is because they're so good. And I think it's going to end tonight. And if it doesn't, it's going to end in Game 6. And if it doesn't do that, then I don't know what to say. Vegas choked.
The Blackhawks are a bad team. I mean, I'm glad that they're in there. It's good for TV ratings. I know Chicago's a big market. They're a bad team. They're lucky to win this. Yeah. They're lucky they got a win, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you, and I hope there's no Chicago fans watching this because they're not going to be too happy. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the game tonight. That this one could be over, and I'll add it to and post if it does end up editing because I don't know when this episode will be out. But let's talk about the next series, Michael. I know you're excited for this one. It's the Avalanche versus the Coyotes. So the Coyotes, another team that nobody again really expected to be in there. They're now down 3-1, and I don't know if you guys are going to say it again, but is this one over too?
I'll let you look. Your boy's playing in this one. I heard you raving about him at the beginning of the podcast, so I'll let you take the floor, Michael. You've earned this. This is your guy.
Listen. Darcy Kemper is probably the best goalie in the NHL right now. Save your Vasilevsky talk. Tuukka Rask is very good. Connor Hellebuyck saved his team this season. Darcy Kemper over the last 2 seasons has carried the Coyotes, and that has been very evident in this series. 49 saves in Game 3, which is the only game that they won, by the way. And he got destroyed in Game 4. Not because of anything that he did in particular, but because their defense is worn out and tired. I'm very happy to see that Arizona made the playoffs. I think it's awesome to have success in hockey in that Scottsdale, Phoenix area. Let's build it up even more. The fact that they have Phil Kessel and Taylor Hall is awesome. The fact that they actually went for it this season. But this series is over because Nathan MacKinnon says it's over. I love Nathan MacKinnon. He is my favorite player in the world. Cale Makar is awesome. Sam Girard is my opinion, one of the top 30 defenders in the league. And he's supremely underrated. You look at Rantanen, Landeskog, Nazem Kadri has been an awesome playoff performer for them. Man, this series is over. And in the second round, the series there is over too. Just give me Knights versus Avalanche in the Western Conference Finals already.
You don't even need the West. You're just wiping it.
No. Listen, give me the top 2 teams in the West, which is Vegas and Colorado, have them duke it out for 7 games, and the winner moves on.
Well, we definitely might get there soon enough. So my big thing for this one that surprised me is that Arizona has just can't get any shots on goal at all. I mean, you look at the shots from these games, it's like 40-10 often by the time these games end. And in the last game, it was 7-1 to Colorado. So Colorado is just running all over them. I'd be surprised to see Arizona come back and win this. I'd love to see him come back and win it, but it is very unlikely. The Avalanche, though, are definitely one of the top teams, and Vegas, Colorado for the conference finals. I mean, it's not a crazy pick. That's very easily what we could see, but we still got some time. We still got a ways to go. So you're gonna go through round 2. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. Maybe I'm speaking a little bit too early.
No, that's the smart pick, man. That's the Vegas odds. They have Vegas in there, obviously. But yeah, that's chalk talk. That's the top 2. They certainly look like the best teams. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Coyotes find a way to push it 7. They got some grizzled guys on there, some talent. But yeah, nobody's picking the Avalanche to lose in round 1 against that team. They probably wouldn't pick them. I don't know who their opponent's going to be in round 2, but I'm assuming it won't be the Knights. I know that. So I would assume that it's a safe bet to pick them to get past their next round as well. But we'll get there.
Definitely. Let's talk about the next series in the West over here, the Stars and Flames. This one I'm a fan of as my favorite player, other that's not on the Lightning, is Ben Bishop. Ben Bishop, one of my favorite goaltenders from the Lightning. But they're tied 2-2 right now. This was a series that I think a lot of people thought the Flames would start to run away with just because of how good, well, they played well against Winnipeg. Obviously, a tough team who ended up with a lot of injuries. But and the Stars also have injuries right now as well. But Stars have fought back, and it's 2-2 right now. Heading into Game 5, this will be interesting one to see which one this one goes. The Stars are supposed to be, technically the better team. They're the higher seed in this one, but I think we could be in for a fun 7 games here.
Yeah, I think, as far as breaking down this matchup, X's and O's, it is what it is. There's certainly a lot of injuries that are playing a big role, but I think this has been the most entertaining series. If you're looking at kind of just game in and game out, and you're taking, fan bias out of it, because clearly your favorite team, whatever it may be, whether it's the Lightning in our case or a different squad for a different person, you're going to enjoy those series a lot. But when it comes to, taking that bias out of it and just saying from a strictly entertainment aspect, this has been fun to watch. It's been back and forth. It's felt balanced, and probably more so than any other series so far going on in the Cup final or the Cup playoffs as we try to get to the finals. So I'm not really picking a favorite in this one. Yeah. I think both teams have good players. Certainly there's some Lightning guys that are spread out, amongst the league. You mentioned Ben Bishop, but I just think that this one will continue to entertain, and it's a fun matchup for everybody.
100%. And you look at the series, the first 4 games in the series, Calgary has been outshot in every single game. However, Dallas's 2 wins have come in overtime. So that just shows you how good Cam Talbot has been for the Flames. And I don't know if that's going to continue. I don't want to make a prediction to see if that's going to continue. But, if he is still on his game, the Flames are going to be a tough team to beat. And you mentioned, Ben Bishop is your favorite player. He's out currently. He hasn't been – I think he's played 1 of the 4 games in that series. Yeah. I want to say that, Alexander Radulov, Tyler Seguin, they've missed time. It's going to be tough. They are a deep team that has, outshot the Flames in every single game that they've played. But, are they quality shots? And I haven't seen every single minute of every single game. So, it's like the Lightning when they got 88 shots on net. There were some quality shots there, but a lot of them were pushed to the outside. That's what Columbus's defensive system does. Calgary's defensive system is similar-ish. They have not as much talent on that defensive side as, a Columbus or an Arizona or something like that. But that is the type of system that they play, and a lot of the shots have been from the outside. So you look at Talbot's save percentage, it's been good. And Dallas has been pretty limited. So I'm not going to make a prediction in fear of getting bitten, because I feel like I've had too many hot takes so far.
Boo. I want a prediction, man.
Go Bull.
Fine. This call until you give a prediction.
Fine. I'll do Calgary in 7. I do think it's going to go the distance because, again, Dallas has been, I guess, the better team, but Calgary has that better goaltending. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch, and it might be the only series going to 7. But, again, we don't know. The majority of these teams already have leads bigger than 2 games. So we'll see.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bishop being hurt. It's a real bummer for him. I know he's always seems to be getting hurt in these playoff scenarios. So you know, I'm going to pick the Stars in this one in 7. With I'm a little biased here because I mentioned my fandom for Bishop, but I think this. You're right. You guys are right. This is going to be the most entertaining series, and I'm excited to see how this one ends. Let's move on now, though, to the next one. Another series that doesn't have a big lead. It's the Blues and the Canucks. They are also tied at 2-2 right now. And this was an interesting series because Vancouver went up 2-0 on the Blues, and it looked like this was Vancouver all the way. The Blues end up making a goalie change, and Jake Allen is now in net, and all of a sudden we got a 2-2 series. So a very interesting one from a goalie switch perspective, and I think the Blues, might be ready to run away with this one, depending on how the next game goes.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you would think we would not forget about the Blues, right? After they just did the impossible last year and won the cup, right? Like you would
Right.
think that that team is the most like forefront of our brains, and we're talking about St. Louis and how they can defend. That's the team I think about and talk about the most, and it's ironic that we're hitting them here at the tail end. And maybe that is because of the 0-2 start against Vancouver. Maybe it's because of the long layoff. So like that last Stanley Cup feels more like 5 years ago than 1 year ago. But whatever those reasonings may be or may not be, the bottom line is this is the defending Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues. And, they've got a lot of the same guys coming back. Not everybody, obviously, certain players like Patrick Maroon are on a different team now. But still, for the most part, that roster is pretty much intact. And they know how to win in the postseason. They know how to not only win in the postseason, but they know how to come from behind when they're counted out, which they did to get into the postseason last year. And look, if you're making me make a decision, I do like the Blues to find a way through Vancouver in this series. But yeah, it's funny to me that we forget about them and we don't talk about them as much, and they're the defending champs.
Yeah, and when I look at the Blues over the last 2 games, for certain, the 2 games that they've won, they've been peppering Jakob Markstrom with shots. There's only so much he can do, and he has been really, really good. But they have also lost both of those games. The Canucks don't have the depth that the Blues do, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that the Blues got Ryan O'Reilly a couple of years ago, and he has been by far their best player over those last 2 years. Like he was really, really good last year. In this series, he has averaged almost 25 minutes a night, has 6 points, 3 of which are goals, 3 of which are primary assists, and the 5-on-5 attempts for shots on goal are 97-29 when he is on the ice, which is insane. That just shows you how good of a player that he is. I know I chose Vancouver in our predictions video a couple of nights ago. I have to switch it. I have to go with St. Louis. They look like the better team. Markstrom can only do so much. I love JT Miller to death. Elias Pettersson is one of my favorite players in the league as well. He's just so talented, but they don't have that depth. So I'm going to go with St. Louis, who will win in 7 because why not? Let's just get more chaos.
The more chaos, the more merrier, right? Yeah, this will be another fun series. It's been very entertaining, especially with the Blues coming back, from an 0-2 deficit and them being the Stanley Cup champions, as you guys mentioned. I think JT Miller is a big key in this game, especially with Vancouver. He's played so well for Vancouver. He's been a huge difference maker, and I think if he can continue to do what he does, I can easily see Vancouver winning this series. It'll be a close one. It'll be back and forth. So I believe my pick was Vancouver at the beginning of all this. So I'm going to stick with that, and we'll see what happens. But and there you go, guys. That's all the NHL series going on right now. I think the NHL has done.
Wait, we missed one.
What's up? We missed one. Which one did I miss?
Boston, Carolina.
Yeah, we like semi talked about.
Oh, okay.
On the east side. You're right though. We didn't go deep into it. We kind of like mishmashed them in. I brought them up with the Caps. We brought them up with a few of the other series, the Flyers series. Yeah, I mean, real quick on that one. Surprised to see Boston continue to score goals. They're playing inspired despite Rask kind of leaving them high and dry and dealing with some business outside of hockey. Look, I like Carolina a lot. I'd like to see them move on past Boston. I never want Boston to win anything at anything ever. I think the way the Bruins are coming at it right now, they're playing with a lot of rage, a lot of anger, and they're finding ways to score goals. Which obviously that wouldn't have been affected by Rask leaving. But I still like Boston in this series, even though I'd prefer to see Carolina get out.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, not much more to say, but you know, we don't like Boston, and we're probably going to face Boston next round. That's just the way it is. So we will.
It's
we will
poetic,
see.
Michael. It's poetic. It's the
Look,
way it's supposed to be.
I was telling Jake during before the call. I said we're going to run through every single demon in our way to the cup. We're going to beat Columbus. We're going to beat Boston. We're going to beat Philly because the Tampa team always needs to beat Philly in order to make the cup or any sort of finals. And in the West, give us Dallas. I know I didn't pick Dallas, but Ben Bishop, our final demon, why not?
I dig it. I'm in.
That would be pretty entertaining and very stressful for Lightning fans. I'm sure they're already sick of this series after last year. But yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention that Rask leaving was a huge deal for. Although Boston seems like they've played okay without Rask. So credit where credit is due. They've done a good job at rallying around their team and staying alive in this one. Now, obviously, we can sit here and talk about all day about their dirty plays and all that good stuff, but and how much that affects the game. But they're up 3-1, so they've got a chance to close things out tomorrow, I believe. I don't know what time they're playing, but hopefully, I think Carolina is a really good team, and if any team can be able to come back from a 3-1 deficit, I think it's Carolina. They've got some work to do, and they've got a couple of injury issues now, but they're a good team. Sebastian Aho himself could carry this team. He's made so many amazing plays in this playoff, so we will have to wait and see what happens. But is there anything else that I missed that we need to talk about here? I think that's about it. So that's going to do it for us, guys. Zac, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun recording with you. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. As always, be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you don't miss out on more content like this. Make sure to check out Zac on his Twitter page as well and all the cool stuff that he does. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you want us to talk about next. As always, have a great day and go Bolts.